Am I the asshole for sleeping in the same bed as my best friend's girlfriend? I, 22M, have been best friends with Brian, 23M, for about 6 years. A few months ago, a group of us planned a hiking trip. Brian was supposed to come, but he couldn't find anyone willing to take his shift. He was annoyed about it, but told us to go without him. His girlfriend, Joanna, 21F, tagged along with us. We were about 6 people in total. We all drove separately because we live in different parts of the city. Joanna and I were the only ones in my car because we lived close by to each other. The hike itself was great. The drive home wasn't. About 20 minutes from the trail, a motorcycle had collided with a truck. We were the first to get there. It was just me, Joanna, and the truck driver. I don't want to get graphic, but the rider was clearly dead. We both saw far more than we ever wanted to. The whole thing hit me harder than I expected. I spent years dealing with depression as a teenager, and seeing someone dead in front of me brought back a lot of thoughts I'd rather not revisit. Anyways, we called the police and waited until they came. Joanna barely spoke during the next couple of hours, but I could see she was clearly shaken up. The police asked for testimonies. I gave mine somewhat clearly, at least as clearly as I could after all that had happened. Joanna couldn't. At that point, it was clear she was more than just shaken up. When everything was finished, it was already late. Brian was still at work and wouldn't be done until morning. Joanna admitted she didn't really want to spend the night alone. I called Brian and explained the situation. He spoke with Joanna for a few minutes, then told her she could stay at my apartment if she wanted. He said he trusted me. Neither of us was really in the mood to talk during the drive back. When we got to my apartment, we sat in silence for a while. I put on some random show on the TV and sat with Joanna in the living room for a while. Eventually, I went to my room. I live alone and only have one bed. I have 3 couches, but they're the tiny type. Apartment couch is barely long enough to sit on comfortably. Looking back, I should have thought more carefully about the situation. The entire day felt unreal. I was exhausted, shaken up, and honestly not thinking straight. I sat down on the bed intending to rest for a minute and ended up lying down. A few minutes later, Joanna came into the room. Neither of us really said anything. She just got into the other side of the bed. I remember thinking that this was probably a bad idea. I also remember not having the energy to argue about it, so we went to sleep. Nothing happened. No kissing, no cuddling, no touching. We were both fully clothed and slept facing opposite directions. The next morning, Brian picked Joanna up before I woke up. As far as I knew, that was the end of it. About 4 months later, Brian showed up at my apartment, furious. Apparently, Joanna had finally admitted something she'd been keeping to herself. According to her, she barely remembers parts of that night. She remembers getting into bed, waking up briefly a few times, and then waking up the next morning. For months, she'd been wondering whether something happened between us while she was half asleep, because she couldn't remember enough to feel certain that nothing had happened. Eventually, she told Brian about those fears. To be clear, Joanna never claimed I assaulted her. She never accused me of doing anything specific. But Brian says that even if nothing happened, sleeping in the same bed as his girlfriend crossed a boundary. My position is that neither of us was thinking normally after what we'd witnessed. I wasn't trying to hide anything. Brian knew where Joanna was staying. He gave his approval beforehand. Nothing physical happened. A few of our friends are agreeing with Brian. Am I the asshole?